when brands think about their investments, oftentimes ROAS is like kind of the last thing to care about, right? It's like only the conversion, but it kind of always forgot all of the things leading up to the conversion. And so it's, what is your TAM? Who are all the people that might be eligible or like interested in your product, but haven't seen an ad of yours before? Who has seen an ad and maybe they haven't made it to a PDP? Who's made it to a PDP, but maybe hasn't converted yet? Who's converted, but maybe they haven't repurchased yet? And so understanding from a shopper standpoint, who are in these buckets, how long have they been in these buckets, what does it take to move them sort of down the funnel and then through into purchase, really aligns much more tightly to like a standard marketer's goal of investing in marketing.
Welcome back to the Commerce Collective podcast brought to you by Flywheel. I am your host, Emma Irwin, and today we are talking all about the launch of Flywheel's Return on Consumer dashboard. You know, all this talk you've heard on this show about return on consumer is really coming to life. It's coming to fruition now in a tangible, accessible way within our tech. In this episode, we'll revisit the concept of return on consumer, why a mindset shift toward return on consumer is so critical for brands looking to measure what real shoppers are doing and how they're interacting with your advertising efforts and driving value and growth over time. And of course, we'll go over some of the foundational elements of the dashboard itself. Without further ado, let's meet our guest.
I'm always delighted to be here. Thank you, Emma. I'm Gabe Fishbein, VP of Product at Flywheel.
Perfect. And you know this one. Last thing you purchased on Amazon.
This one's not exciting at all. 2-pack of USB-C like wall warts.
Okay.
Now that everything is USB-C standard, you can just keep buying them and keep plugging them into things. And so you can have a backpack, like a work one and a travel one and all that stuff. So it's nice to just keep buying them whenever they're on deal. And there are a lot of deals recently.
All right. Today, we have been talking about return on consumer for many, many months now on this show, and it's exciting that today we get to actually present to the world a tangible product that helps brands forecast their holistic return on consumer, and it addresses various stages of the funnel in tandem. Before we dig into this dashboard, I want to revisit the conceptual foundation of ROC that the dashboard was built off of. Can you describe return on consumer in your own words in October 2025?
I think one of the things that brands kind of really struggle with is quantifying the value of a customer to them. And so the historic kind of reporting paradigms across advertising and across retail have always been kind of imprisoned by the structures around them. And so what do I mean by that? Well, like campaigns, you add ASINs to them and you add keywords, or, you know, if it's a DSP campaign, you add audiences, you know, in market or lifestyle, whatever. And like, then all of your reporting is at that level. So yeah, you can look at the creative, or yeah, you could look at the keyword or the search term or whatever. But like, you sort of always have been stuck in this optimization loop where you could only ever really measure the success by using the structures of the campaigns. But with Amazon Marketing Cloud, as we know, it really has this customer-centric architecture, which allows you to look at the customer ID and determine exactly what they did leading up to the purchase and what they did after. And so when we think about return on consumer, we think about quantifying the stages of the funnel, sort of how much a customer or a shopper is worth in each one of those stages, including purchase and including loyalty, so that we can present brands with a more sort of shopper-centric view of the world. We're trying to reach shoppers, and now we're trying to measure the value that they get out of the shoppers that actually convert, as well as sort of average out the value of the shoppers that do and don't, so they can understand like what kind of, like it's getting really into this world of like customer acquisition cost as a KPI that used to be really important in D2C. D2C's kind of dissolved to the retailers, that now we can start thinking about from a retailer-centric point of view.
Gotcha. I would think like conceptually return on consumer makes a lot of sense. And I think a lot of people that are actually working and optimizing campaigns, their hands on keyboard, like they're like, yeah, that does sound great. Like ROAS just doesn't really cover it. But I don't think that mindset translates up to like leadership at brands. Do you have any kind of guiding words to get people to be a little bit more willing to move away from ROAS as this KPI and more to that consumer-centric look?
Yeah. I mean, ROAS has a ton of limitations, right? So like within each platform, you're going to have different definitions of what counts as a sale. So is it a click or view through attributed sale? And when you're looking at spend, does it include, you know, DSP fees or not? But also ROAS is limited to that first purchase in that 1, 7, 14 or 30-day window. And then that's it. And so like you end up in ROAS jail is sort of one way to put it, where what happens is you are kind of myopically trying to determine the value of something based on only the first thing that happened afterwards. And so we talked a little bit about customer LTV, which allows us to see how much a customer is worth, what is their cross-purchase behavior, what was their point of market entry, and what did they buy next, time that it took them to repurchase, like all these really cool things around LTV, but it still doesn't quite capture what happens before the purchase. And so as we think about like what happens before the purchase, the goal of our return on consumer dashboard is to show all of the different stages. And so when brands think about their investments, oftentimes ROAS is like kind of the last thing to care about, right? It's like only the conversion, but it kind of always forgot all of the things leading up to the conversion. And so it's, what is your TAM? Who are all the people that might be eligible or like interested in your product, but haven't seen an ad of yours before? Who has seen an ad and maybe they haven't made it to a PDP? Who's made it to a PDP, but maybe hasn't converted yet? Who's converted, but maybe they haven't repurchased yet? And so understanding from a shopper standpoint, who are in these buckets, how long have they been in these buckets, what does it take to move them sort of down the funnel and then through into purchase, really aligns much more tightly to like a standard marketer's goal of investing in marketing. And so that's what makes it really interesting. And so while it kind of unclicks from this idea of like, oh, ROAS is an attributed sale. An attributed sale sounds just like a retail sale, and it's revenue and revenue. Well, you can tie it really closely together. It forgets all the kind of pre-purchase, and it forgets all the incrementality involved in like a last touch ROAS, where a last touch ROAS kind of doesn't really factor in all of these other different pieces.
Narration Emma thinking out loud here. Gabe has been talking about moving shoppers through the funnel by understanding what's really going on within each stage. There's also plenty of people that don't actually belong in your funnel, right? And they're worth identifying because they're a bit of a wasted effort.
Exactly. And so like we're getting slightly into a different episode here, but then you're really getting into the thoughts of frequency caps, for example.
Yeah.
What is the propensity of somebody to buy if I show them yet another impression, and understanding what is sort of the modeling that you'd perform to be able to measure that. And then, you know, how do you remove people who, if you show them the 7th impression, maybe they weren't going to convert on the 8th. And so that gets into a little bit more of kind of like the future forward, like road mapping version of this, which is exactly right. It's like, how do you determine who is most likely to move down that funnel? And then how do you make sure that you reach those shoppers first?
God, hey, at least I'm thinking sort of correctly in the future. That is good job, me. Okay, back to the actual return on consumer dashboard that exists now. But before we do that, are your marketing efforts truly integrated? You know, with 80% of purchases still happening in store, it takes more than a digital ad to win today's shopper. Flywheel's expanded shopper media offering is the solution to your challenges of connecting your digital and physical efforts in a measurable way. Our team partners with you to create omnichannel campaigns that move shoppers to action wherever they are. Want to learn more? Head to the link in the episode description. Okay, back to me asking Gabe about how we've taken the concept of return on consumer and turned it into a metric that lives within the dashboard.
The way to think about it is, at each stage of the funnel, you're naturally going to have people that fall off. There are very few brands for whom their TAM is literally everybody. And like, yes, there are certain CPG brands where it's like everybody with a mouth. They're like everybody who like dries their hands or whatever. But like the vast majority of brands, their TAM isn't everybody. And so it's like you address like who you think your TAM is. Some proportion of those people are going to be responsive to ads and some aren't. Some may be brand loyal to another brand, or some may be purchasing through a channel that you're not measuring with Amazon Marketing Cloud. So there's going to kind of be this natural attrition between each stage of the funnel. And so the goal of the return on consumer metric is to help you value the average customer value, the average user value, like customer ID value. And so that is going to be a blend of the shoppers who move through the funnel and end up converting, and they may be even high value converters, or they may be shoppers who are attrit or like lapse from your brand. Maybe they aren't responsive to the ad, maybe they don't need your product, whatever. And so because you can't predict with 100% certainty who looks like what versus the other, you sort of blend the number because you want to know how valuable is the average shopper in each stage, both those who convert and those who don't. Now, naturally, the investment case that follows that is that you want to invest in those that have the highest propensity, that look like they're going to convert. And there's a bunch of really cool modeling that goes into that. But from a metric standpoint, from a return on consumer standpoint, you really just want to know what is the average value across all of the shoppers that I'm reaching in all of the stages. And that is the kind of a number that you're looking to go up. And if you qualify the right shoppers, that number goes up.
And with that number and the dashboard in general, are there recommendations? Are there actionable elements within this dashboard as to, okay, we see what's working here, but are there recommendations that say, hey, we think you should do this?
Yes, we've built in some recommendations that are part of that. I won't go into all of them because there are like 40 something different kind of flavors of recommendation, but the kind of net of the recommendations are, here's how you identify shoppers who look like they are going to lapse, and here's what you go do. Here's how you identify shoppers who look like they might progress, and here's what you go do. And so we've built it in a way so that you can look at the month over month, the shoppers kind of move down the funnel, and we've done sort of the color coding that says, okay, break it out. Who is new to that stage in the funnel, who's been there and active, quote unquote, and then who is at risk of lapsing.
Narrator Emma here again. Further thinking out loud, I'm just feeling chatty today, but as I watched a demo of this dashboard, of course seeing what Gabe has thus far described, a holistic return on consumer number in dollars, and then visualizations of the progress of your consumers moving through your funnel and recommendations accompanying those visuals, I started wondering about how brands think about that holistic ROC number versus what's specifically happening throughout the funnel. And how do you tell a cohesive story between those two elements to leadership? I know everybody wants to see the return on consumer number increase, but you have to have a solid understanding of what's happening stage by stage as well, right?
It's very intertwined. And so if you do a good job of moving people through the funnel, then the number goes up, naturally speaking. And so it's how do you adjust your strategies to a more shopper-centric approach, more shopper-centric tactic, so that you decrease the cost of propagating more people through the funnel. And so the way to think about it is that the ultimate shopper state is somebody who's loyal, loyal being kind of the lowest funnel stage as we've articulated it here. The question is, you don't just get somebody from first impression to loyalty overnight, bring them into your brand and acquaint them with the brand. You land them on your PDP and you hit them with really good content. You convert that very first time with that good content and you remarket to them, remind them that your brand is there, get with a good SNS discount. You can, as well as you could cross shop them. So there's a ton that you can do when you've built that shopper relationship. And so we almost see this as a roadmap to building the shopper relationship. And if you're successful in building that shopper relationship by moving people down the funnel, well, then the ROC is the reward. And so all of the different funnel stages can be seen as kind of this lead up to the reward, which is the conversion and which is the loyalty. Of course, making sure that everything from your supply chain to your content to your assortment to your pricing is all in the right place too.
Gotcha. And just a clarification that this is all Amazon specific and that we're tracking down to the purchase on Amazon because we have the data via AMC to do so.
That's correct. Amazon Marketing Cloud provides a really rich foundation to build this upon, but this is built off of a number of other Amazon data sources too that aren't kind of able to logically click together. And so when we think about what is the secret sauce of this thing, it's really pulling together data, not just from AMC, but from a bunch of different other places so that we can tell a really good story of what happens before a customer, before a shopper appears in Amazon Marketing Cloud for the first time and, how much they are worth.
Is there a way to incorporate some of your first 1P data into this as well? So you just have a little bit broader reach than your Amazon advertising efforts?
We do incorporate some Flywheel proprietary data that we sort of structure on our end to make sure that the dashboard works and filters exactly how we want it to. And so everybody has kind of different definitions of things. And so we do some of the legwork on our end to bring together some Flywheel data, merge it, upload it into AMC and merge it with the other insights so that all of the measurement and all of sort of the funnel movement kind of clicks together in a way where we can stand behind what the numbers are saying.
What are you the most excited about as this dashboard rolls out and more clients are able to get access?
We're tangibly showing shoppers as sales outcomes, which is not really a way that a lot of people report on sales today. And we have a long way to go when it comes to saying everything is fully shopper centric. Like that's not happening right now. But we really see this as kind of the first place where we say, okay, we now have a visualization that helps you conceptualize the number of shoppers in each bucket, where they are, how they've interacted with your brand, how much they might be worth, and what to go do next. And so, like historically, this way of thinking has always been kind of this conceptual, fuzzy audience mindset. And the big mental shift is the actual visualization of customers on the screen. That it's like these are not cohorts, but they're actually like a population graph of the amount of people at each stage. And so this is just day one of like, how do we begin to transform people's mindsets into something that thinks about the shopper? And so there's a whole lot more to come on this roadmap. We're really excited, but that's what excites me most, is that like we're starting to change the way that people KPI and manage against the shopper, not just against the campaign, which like you don't really have any control over the structure of the campaign. It's just what the platform gives you.
Boom. Facts. Okay. Last question. Something on your digital wish list.
Air particulate like sensor that shows you kind of the like PM 2.5 air pollution. I live in Washington, D.C., and I've recently become more interested in my air quality. And so my prior purchase to the USB-C things was an AirNet 4, which is like a CO2 monitor. And so understanding just the amount of CO2 in the air and how it affects how you feel is really interesting. And so I think next for me is air particulate monitor. How much fine particulate matter is in the air? And so that will probably I'm sort of balancing between how much I should care and how much it's going to affect me like mentally versus physically. But like that one's on my wish list. It might come across my doorstep in the next couple of months.
Well, that's one where it's like, oh, is actually knowing this information going to make me feel better or worse? I'm not sure.
Yeah, there's sort of this like, I deal with that a lot. Is like, I love data, like shocking. I'm a product person, but like sometimes data can be distracting and sometimes it can be helpful, and knowing which is only easier in retrospect.
And that wraps up another episode of the Commerce Collective podcast. Thank you to Gabe for walking us through the return on consumer dashboard. It's really exciting to see this come to life. It's something that you can access today and really start working toward a more consumer-centric measurement mindset. If you want to learn more about the dashboard, you can reach out to me directly or head to the link in the episode description. I've been your host, Emma Irwin, and we will see you next time.